The birth of kingship. c. 3100 BCE. Before Egypt had pyramids, it had Narmer. Also known as Menes, he unified Upper and Lower Egypt, becoming the first pharaoh. He wore the double crown symbol of his new dominion. This was the start of the first dynasty, a time when divine kingship began. Pharaohs weren't just rulers, they were gods on earth. Narmer's legacy was written in stone, literally, on the famous Narmer palette. He laid the foundation for 3,000 years of royal lineage and myth. The early dynasties and Abydos kings. The first and second dynasties ruled from Thinis near Abydos. Kings like Jer, Den, and Ka'a expanded Egypt's influence. They built mud brick tombs and carved their names into ivory tags. While much is lost, these rulers created the framework of centralized power. The second dynasty saw chaos and possible civil war. But with the rise of Djoser in the third dynasty, Egypt was about to change forever with stone, ambition, and the world's first pyramid. Djoser and the Step Pyramid. Djoser, the first king of the third dynasty, revolutionized Egypt. His vizier Imhotep priest, architect, genius, designed the Step Pyramid at Saqqara. This wasn't just a tomb, it was a vision of eternity in stone. The complex introduced monumental architecture to Egypt, marking the dawn of the Old Kingdom. Djoser's rule was stable and religiously transformative. With his pyramid, the idea of a god-king ascending to heaven took architectural form. Egypt was now a land of divine ambition. Sneferu, the Builder King. Sneferu, the first king of the fourth dynasty, was obsessed with perfection. He built 3 pyramids, the Medem, Bent, and Red pyramids. These were experiments in grand scale and structural engineering. The Bent pyramid's odd shape proved learning came with failure. But the Red pyramid? Egypt's first true smooth-sided marvel. Sneferu was beloved and efficient. His reign brought wealth and peace. More than that, he set the stage for his son, the most famous pyramid builder of all time, Khufu, and the Great Pyramid. Khufu, also known as Cheops, ruled during Egypt's Golden Age and built the Great Pyramid of Giza. It stood 146 meters tall and remained the tallest man-made structure for nearly 4,000 years. His reign was powerful but mysterious. Few statues, no detailed records, yet the pyramid speaks volumes. Built with over 2 million limestone blocks, it remains a wonder of engineering. Khufu's ambition symbolized the might of the pharaoh, aligning heaven, earth, and eternity. Khafre and the Sphinx. Khafre, Khufu's son, continued the legacy. His pyramid was slightly smaller but sits on higher ground, giving the illusion of dominance. He also likely built the Great Sphinx, Egypt's most enigmatic guardian. With a lion's body and a king's face, the Sphinx symbolized strength and royal divinity. Khafre maintained order and control, centralizing religion and reinforcing the idea of the pharaoh as Horus on earth. His rule preserved the grandeur of the fourth dynasty, Menkaure, and the decline of the pyramids. Menkaure followed Khafre and built the smallest of the 3 Giza pyramids. His reign marked a shift, less monumental, more humane. Statues of Menkaure show him gently holding goddesses, a break from the stern expressions of earlier kings. Though powerful, his legacy signals the end of the massive pyramid age. Successors couldn't match the scale or glory of Giza. The pyramid builders were losing steam, but the myth of the pharaoh was just evolving. The Fifth Dynasty and Sun Temples. The Fifth Dynasty saw a new obsession. The sun god Ra kings, like Userkaf and Sahuri, built sun temples instead of gigantic pyramids. Their pyramids were smaller, with detailed reliefs depicting everyday life. Pharaohs now embraced solar theology, presenting themselves as sons of Ra. Administration expanded, art flourished, and Egypt grew outward. Trade with Punt and Syria brought exotic goods and ideas. The pharaoh's role was now more priestly and bureaucratic than godlike. Unas and the Pyramid Texts. Unas, the last king of the Fifth Dynasty, changed funerary tradition forever. Inside his pyramid, he inscribed the Pyramid Texts, the first religious writings in history. These spells and hymns helped the king ascend to the afterlife. His tomb was modest, but its words held divine power. The king's soul would fly to the stars, united with the gods. The practice of textual afterlife rituals would shape Egyptian religion for centuries to come. The Sixth Dynasty and Pepi II. The Sixth Dynasty reached its peak under Pepi II, who allegedly ruled for 94 years. He became king as a child and reigned longer than anyone in recorded history. But long rule brought problems. Central power declined, nomarchs, local governors grew strong, and Egypt began fragmenting. The old kingdom faded, not with fire but with slow erosion. Pepi's long reign symbolized the twilight of divine monarchy. Egypt was entering a time of darkness and division. The first intermediate period. Chaos and division. After Pepi II, Egypt splintered. The centralized monarchy collapsed, and rival rulers rose in Heracleopolis and Thebes. This first intermediate period saw civil war, famine, and instability. Yet, even in chaos, art persisted. Local kings ruled small regions and built modest tombs. The pharaoh's divine image dimmed. But out of the darkness came a powerful family in Thebes who would eventually reunite the land and restore order, marking the rise of Egypt's Middle Kingdom. Mentuhotep II and the Middle Kingdom. Mentuhotep II of the 11th dynasty reunited Egypt around 2050 BC, ending centuries of division. He ruled from Thebes and proclaimed himself the uniter of the two lands. His mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari marked the beginning of a new architectural style. Mentuhotep II of the 11th dynasty reunited Egypt. His rule was strong, centralized, and just. Egypt entered a new golden age, the Middle Kingdom. The pharaohs were now seen as shepherds of the people, rather than untouchable gods. Stability and prosperity returned to the Nile Valley. Senusret I and the White Chapel. The 12th dynasty brought brilliant rulers. Senusret I built the beautiful White Chapel at Karnak, inscribed with detailed scenes of royal rituals and unity. His rule expanded Egypt's borders into Nubia. The pharaoh was now a warrior, priest, and statesman. He promoted literacy, temples, and irrigation. His image was stern, symbolizing control and divine justice. Under Senusret, Egypt thrived and strengthened its identity, becoming a powerful, organized kingdom once again. Amenemhat III and the Fayum Labyrinth. Amenemhat III, one of the greatest Middle Kingdom pharaohs, engineered massive irrigation projects in the Fayum. He also built the Labyrinth, a colossal mortuary complex Herodotus later praised. Egypt flourished with trade, mining, and administration. Art and statuary reached new heights of realism, showing tired, aged kings symbols of responsibility, not perfection. But after his reign, power weakened, the dynasty faltered, and foreign settlers crept into the delta. Egypt's second great age was ending. The Hyksos invasion and the Second Intermediate Period. The 13th dynasty gave way to fragmentation. Into this vacuum came the Hyksos, foreign rulers from the Levant. They settled in Avaris and introduced new technologies: horses, chariots, and bronze weapons. Egypt was now divided again. The Hyksos ruled the north. Native pharaohs clung to the south. This Second Intermediate Period was humbling, yet transformative. The stage was set for a fiery comeback. From Thebes would rise a dynasty that would make Egypt an empire. Ahmose I and the rise of empire. Ahmose, founder of the 18th dynasty, expelled the Hyksos and reunified Egypt. He wielded chariots and siege tactics, learned from his enemies. Ahmose restored temples and royal power. His victory marked the beginning of the new kingdom, Egypt's most powerful era. Pharaohs now styled themselves as conquerors. Egypt would no longer defend, it would dominate. With Ahmose, the pharaoh became a warrior god once more, and Egypt stood tall among ancient superpowers. Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh. Hatshepsut, daughter of Thutmose I, defied norms by declaring herself pharaoh. She ruled in male regalia and was often depicted with a false beard. Her reign was peaceful and prosperous. She launched trade expeditions to Punt and built her magnificent temple at Deir el-Bahari. Hatshepsut focused on legacy, not war. After her death, successors tried to erase her name, but her monuments endured. She proved that power in Egypt wasn't about gender, it was about vision and command. Thutmose III, Napoleon of Egypt. Thutmose III, stepson of Hatshepsut, became Egypt's greatest military pharaoh. He led 17 campaigns across Canaan and Syria, turning Egypt into an empire. He crossed the Euphrates, planted obelisks, and recorded his victories at Karnak. Yet he also patronized science and religion. His reign blended conquest with culture. Under Thutmose III, the pharaoh was the ultimate general, priest, and administrator, master of land, war, and spirit. Egypt's glory reached its zenith. Akhenaten and the Heretic Revolution. Akhenaten changed everything. He abandoned the gods of Egypt and worshipped one Aten, the sun disk. He moved the capital to Akhetaten and created bizarre, otherworldly art. Temples were open air, rituals simplified. He even changed his name from Amenhotep IV. This was religious revolution, not reform. But after his death, Egypt recoiled. His successors erased his legacy. Akhenaten's brief reign showed that even divine kings could be too radical for their own myth. Tutankhamun, the boy who restored order. Tutankhamun, Akhenaten's son, became pharaoh at age 9. Though young, his reign symbolized Egypt's return to tradition. He restored the old gods, abandoned Akhetaten, and revived Thebes. He died mysteriously at 19, but his legacy exploded in 1922, when Howard Carter found his intact tomb. Gold, chariots, and the iconic mask revealed the glory of a forgotten boy king. Tut ruled briefly, but in death, he became the most famous pharaoh of all, I-Horemheb, and the end of a dynasty. After Tutankhamun, two older officials, I and Horemheb, took the throne. I ruled briefly, then Horemheb restored order, crushed corruption, and erased the Amarna heresy. Though childless, Horemheb laid the foundation for a new dynasty, the 19th. These transitional pharaohs weren't builders or conquerors. They were restorers, men who cleaned Egypt's wounds and prepared it for glory once more. Their reigns were quiet but crucial in ensuring Egypt's spiritual and political survival after Akhenaten's chaos. Ramses I and the birth of the Ramessides. Ramses I, a military man chosen by Horemheb, ruled only briefly, but his line would define an era. His son Seti I led powerful campaigns into Syria and built the magnificent Abydos Temple. The Ramesside dynasty fused military might with monumental grandeur. They claimed divine favor and invoked ancient gods. Egypt was stable, organized, and proud once more. With Seti, a legend was rising. The greatest pharaoh of them all was about to take the throne. Ramses II, the great builder and warrior. Ramses II ruled for 66 years longer than most civilizations. He fought the Battle of Kadesh against the Hittites and signed the world's first known peace treaty. He built colossal temples, Abu Simbel, Luxor, and his own Ramesseum. He fathered over 100 children and immortalized himself in statues across the land. Called Ramses the Great, he was both a god and a brand. No pharaoh left a grander legacy. For Egyptians, he was the king of kings. Merneptah and the first mention of Israel. Merneptah, son of Ramses II, inherited an aged empire. He defended Egypt from Libyan invasions and left behind the famous Israel Stele, the earliest known mention of Israel in history. His reign was short but significant. Egypt was still mighty, but signs of strain appeared. Successors squabbled, resources thinned, and power became decentralized. The twilight of the new kingdom had begun, but Egypt's flame still flickered in the hands of proud but struggling rulers. Ramses III and the Sea Peoples. Ramses III of the 20th dynasty faced one of Egypt's greatest threats, the Sea Peoples. These mysterious invaders attacked from the Mediterranean, toppling empires. Ramses defeated them in epic naval battles, preserving Egypt's independence. But victory came at a cost: economic collapse, labor strikes, and royal conspiracies. Though Ramses III was a warrior king, Egypt would never fully recover. His death marked the end of the last truly great native pharaoh. Darkness loomed once more. The Third Intermediate Period and Libyan Pharaohs. Egypt fractured again. The Third Intermediate Period saw Libyan warlords, priest kings in Thebes, and foreign rule. Dynasties overlapped. Authority weakened. Some rulers, like Shoshank I, tried to restore order. He even appears in the Bible as Shishak. But mostly, pharaohs were local powers now, not global kings. Temples decayed, pyramids crumbled, and old gods lost their voice. Egypt became a land of memory, still proud, still sacred, but no longer supreme. The Nubian pharaohs, black kings of the Nile. In the 8th century BCE, kings from Nubia, modern Sudan, conquered Egypt and became pharaohs. Pha, Shabaka, and Taharka ruled as the 25th dynasty. They restored temples, revived pyramid building, and re-embraced traditional religion. These black pharaohs saw themselves as true heirs of the gods. But Assyria invaded, and Egypt fell again. The Nubian kings retreated south, leaving behind monuments and pride. For a brief moment, the heart of Egypt beat from the south: Persian conquest and brief revivals. Persians conquered Egypt twice. Under Cambyses and Darius, pharaohs were foreign emperors. Temples were respected, but autonomy was lost. Some native dynasties, like the 26th under Psamtik and Necho, briefly revived Egyptian culture and military power. But by the 4th century BCE, Egypt was weak. It could no longer resist empires. The land of Horus and Ra would soon bow to a new god, Alexander the Great, whose arrival changed Egypt forever. The Ptolemies, Greek pharaohs of Egypt. Alexander founded Alexandria, then died. His general Ptolemy took Egypt, starting the final dynasty. The Ptolemies. Though Greek in origin, they ruled as pharaohs. Ptolemaic Egypt blended Hellenism and native faith. Ptolemy II built the Library of Alexandria. Ptolemy IV worshipped Egyptian gods. Their rule was brilliant yet brutal. Civil wars, incestuous marriages, and Roman pressure fractured the dynasty. But one queen would defy fate and burn her name into history: Cleopatra. Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh. Cleopatra VII was Egypt's final ruler. Intelligent, multilingual, and politically savvy, she seduced Rome's titans Julius Caesar and Mark Antony to save her kingdom. But Rome could not be stopped. After losing to Octavian at Actium, Cleopatra took her own life in 30 BCE. With her, 3,000 years of pharaohs ended. Egypt became a Roman province. Yet the legend lived on in marble, myth, and memory. The pharaohs had vanished, but their legacy would shape the world forever.